More than 2 months into this war, the most powerful country on earth is asking the United Nations to pass a resolution that other countries wrote with it. It is asking China and Russia not to use their vetoes. It has posed its own naval operation on the same day. A country that does not let the same institution work in Gaza or West Bank or Lebanon now wants it to work to stop what it started without an endgame on the table. That is the headline tonight. Whatever Project Freedom was supposed to be on Sunday, within 2 days, it has become a pause button while diplomacy catches up. Let's bring in our guest. We have been joined by Paul Della Guardia, who is a macroeconomist and geopolitical analyst from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much, Paul, for joining us. You must be following the developments around the Iran war and the diplomacy and everything that's happening. Let's start with a simple question. On Tuesday, Marco Rubio went to United Nations and it tabled something and asked China and Russia not to veto it. It was a resolution actually against Iran. By Tuesday night, Trump paused his Project Freedom. And now it seems as if the United Nations is active again all of a sudden after long that it was so irrelevant. What do you think is happening? Is this a coordinated diplomatic pivot by White House of wanting something on the paper which is legal and that can push Iran to do what so far Washington has not been able to do?
Clearly, going to the United Nations is yet another sign that this administration is flailing in its attempts to find an exit from this war that they themselves have started. So whatever Marco Rubio brings to the United Nations, I'm afraid is more of a distraction than anything else. What's really important are the realities on the ground in the Strait of Hormuz. So yes, yesterday the administration stopped Project Freedom, which is meant to accompany tankers and other maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz and to protect them. But from the beginning, when this initiative was announced on Sunday, I believe, it was already very clear to shippers worldwide that this isn't some sort of panacea that can make passage through the strait safe. No matter how formidable the U.S. Navy and military are, it doesn't change the fact that Iran controls the strait from 3 different sides, and with a lot of mountainous terrain. So it's hard militarily to take out Iranian capabilities to hurt shipping through the strait. So I'm afraid what is really needed is what we've known all along is a diplomatic and political solution to this. So the real question is not what's happening at the United Nations. And on that point, I'm really afraid that a golden age of multilateralism is well and truly behind us. But it's going to be negotiations with Iran.
Let's widen the lens. Project Freedom was sold as a humanitarian project, and it was the next phase of the war, apparently. 15,000 troops, more than 100 aircraft, guided missiles destroyers were deployed. By Tuesday, it was paused. From your view, what kind of signaling is this coming from American president? Because he says that, well, the blockade is going really well. If the blockade is going well, then why is there a need of the further 15,000 troops in the strait in the first place? And now pausing that as well within 2 days. What is going on, in your opinion, in the capital?
Clearly, we all know, and you know as well as I do, how shameless President Trump is when it comes to declaring victory in different aspects of his life, business, and political career. But even for President Trump right now, even declaring victory with the strait still effectively closed, I think even for him, this is a bridge too far. So what he is looking for clearly is an off-ramp, an exit, to get himself out of this mess that he himself has created. Alongside with Israel, but really ultimately the president has to take responsibility for this. So yeah, announcing that 15,000 more troops are coming, more military might is going to be there to try to help open the strait. This is a sign of an ad hoc approach to policy. For many years, decades, various administrations, various agencies within the US government have had contingency plans in place for what happens when something like the Strait of Hormuz closes. But it seems like when launching this war, that this administration had essentially disregarded or not paid any attention whatsoever to any
Was
of these
there an
contingencies.
end game in mind, do you think?
No, I'm convinced that there was no end game in mind. I think for President Trump, the end game in mind was Venezuela. What happened with taking President Maduro, kidnapping him in January, and thought he could replicate that in Iran.
In Iran as well.
And obviously, Iran is a very different situation.
Well, I'm surprised on the policymakers and the strategists in the administration who could not brief this to President, that there is no comparison between Venezuela and Iran. And now look at where the administration is. This is practically foreign policy of US in crisis, looking for an off-ramp. And what I don't get is the fact that from JCPOA, Trump walked out unilaterally, and he wants another deal with Iran, which is better than that. Do you think that happening?
No, I don't see it happening. First of all, the JCPOA was negotiated over a lengthy period of time. I think it took at least 2.5
months.
years.
Yeah.
You know the stats better than I do. But yes, it took a while to negotiate. Many parties were involved. It wasn't just the US and Iran. There's a lot of diplomacy going on behind the scenes to get to that point. But clearly, Trump, in his first term, canceled the U.S. participation in the JCPOA out of spite towards his predecessor, Obama. So, and now he's left in a worse position. He and the rest of the United States, and arguably many countries in the world, are left in a worse position with respect to the Iranian nuclear program. So, he is very reactive in his policy choices. It's ad hoc and without significant foresight. Just trying to see what he can get away with in the moment. So at this point, we're seeing more of the same. He's trying different things and trying to figure out what will stick. But
or
ultimately,
hoping one might work.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Okay, I'll get back to the resolution itself. Marco Rubio said that it's very modest, and we are only asking from Iran to stop the attacks and to declare where the mines are in the strait. And he has tied it directly to the Chinese and the Russians. So what he's asking practically is from Chinese and Russians not to veto it. And the exact ask that just tell us where the mines are, it says something really mind-boggling, that they are resorting to nothing now. They literally have nothing. They don't even know where the mines are. So why the destroyers are there? Why in 2 months, $25 billion have been spent so far? What is the reaction coming from inside of US?
Well, inside the US, what I've been hearing is about the mines specifically is, do the Iranians even know where they are? Because when they were laid, were they able to track the exact GPS coordinates where the mines were put? There's been a lot of a change in leadership inside Iran with all the essential decapitations happening during the war. I think the U.S. has taken out 150 of their leaders or so. So my sense is that things might be somewhat disorganized in Iran, and there's I wouldn't say a power vacuum, but you have different factions, and in that kind of environment, it doesn't bode well for being able to identify where the mines are.
But Paul, the very fact that Rubio is saying that we want Iran to tell us where the mines are, it says that US is blind to it. It doesn't know where the mines are, and it says that the military is winning, the blockade is winning. So these are two contradictory statements coming from the same administration. Is this a failure?
Yes. Yeah, well, it's a clear it's a multi-dimensional failure, and this is far from the first time that the administration has contradicted itself in a shameless way. Unfortunately, as a U.S. citizen, I really regret all this, of course, as a citizen of the world as well. But it just goes to show the fact that the U.S. military does not know where the mines are. It's not an indictment. It's just the natural limits of military capabilities anywhere in the world. It's hard to. I'm not.
Walk me through this, because this is a question that I'm asking every analyst on my show, that whenever and howsoever this strait is open, and for some time there is a framework in place with Iran, and there are still 2 years that President Trump is going to be in presidency, do you think there is a sword hanging above us that any time that there is a pressure from Israel, there is a tendency in administration to attack Iran again, regardless of what is being agreed to? There is a framework in place, there is an off-ramp. This administration is too unpredictable.
Well, what's very clear is that in his electoral campaign in 2024, Trump received significant backing from Israel-leaning lobbies here in the United States. And it seems like he's really, by going through with this Iran war, he's really followed some of his policies very closely. Let's not forget, in his first term, he relocated the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem.
Yes, absolutely.
Exactly. It was a major diplomatic move and a positive signal for Israel.
Yeah.
So it will remain a concern that the U.S. president will as it were, follow Israel's lead in a sense. But like I said, the buck stops with the U.S. president. Trump is not beholden to Israel. But in this case, he decided to go along with the war, partly, I think, to support Israel and please Israel, but also partly because he thought he could get it done just like Venezuela, that he would be in and out in a few weeks. Simple as that. I'm afraid that this isn't as complicated as it might seem.
Right. Paul Della Guardia, thank you so much for joining us. It was lovely having you on our show.
Thank you for having me.